You think Tyrannosaurus rex was the king of the Cretaceous? Completely wrong. What truly gave dinosaurs nightmares was a monster called Deinosuchus. It was 12 meters long, with a bite force of 18,000 kilonewtons. What does that mean? With one bite, it could crush a car into a sheet of metal, and in front of it, T-Rex was nothing more than a moving can of meat. Even more terrifying, scientists found T-Rex bones inside fossilized Deinosuchus droppings. What does that mean? The ruler of the land was eaten, and not after a fight. It was treated like a snack. Deinosuchus would specifically wait by the water's edge for dinosaurs to come drink. Once it bit down, it would begin a death roll, spinning at a speed of 3 rotations per second. A dinosaur weighing 8 tons could be twisted into a pile of flesh in just 30 seconds. Most terrifying of all, this thing lived on Earth for 80 million years, 3 times longer than the reign of T-Rex. So why did it go extinct? The answer is chilling. After the dinosaurs were gone, they began killing each other. The last Deinosuchus were eaten by their own kind. There was once a creature on Earth whose only natural enemy was itself. But did you know? The process by which humans discovered Deinosuchus was itself full of twists and turns. In 1858, a miner in North Carolina, USA, dug up several enormous teeth while mining coal. Each one was as thick as an adult's fist. When scientists first saw them, their immediate reaction was, "These must be the teeth of a plesiosaur." And what happened? Completely wrong. As more and more was excavated, and skulls, vertebrae, armored plates, everything came out. Only then did scientists suddenly realize, this was no sea-dwelling plesiosaur. This was clearly a giant crocodilian capable of eating dinosaurs. And what's even crazier comes later. In 1940, an excavation team from the American Museum of Natural History unearthed even more terrifying fossils in Big Bend National Park, Texas. Scientists were thrilled and immediately began reconstructing the skull. But then a problem appeared. The fossils were too fragmented, so they could only use modern crocodiles as a reference and fill in the missing parts with plaster. And as a result, by accident, they made Deinosuchus's head a full 2 times larger. In one go, they estimated its body length at 15 meters. What does that mean? Longer than a container truck, weighing 10 tons, comparable to 3 elephants. When those figures were published, the whole world was shocked. But in 2002, scientists used 3D technology to reconstruct 90% of the Deinosuchus skull. Only then did they discover that the previous estimate was practically a joke. The real Deinosuchus averaged 8 to 9 meters in length. The largest individuals were only about 10.5 meters. Its weight ranged from 2 to 8 tons. You might think, isn't that still huge? It is huge. But compared with 15 meters, it had already shrunk by 1/3. And then, in April 2025, a new study published in Communications Biology revised Deinosuchus's size downward yet again. Through expanded phylogenetic analysis, scientists found that Deinosuchus may have been only 7 to 8 meters long, rather than over 10 meters as previously believed. Why did that happen? Because earlier estimates used the body proportions of alligators. But Deinosuchus's skull, relative to its body, was actually longer. It's like saying you can't use a giraffe's neck to estimate an elephant's body size. But even if it was only 7 to 8 meters long, Deinosuchus was still the absolute top predator of late Cretaceous North America. Why? Because it possessed a perfect weapon system. First, the teeth. Inside Deinosuchus's mouth, 70 to 80 teeth were lined up in neat rows. Each one was as big as a banana. But the most terrifying thing was not the number. It was the division of labor. The teeth at the front of the mouth were long and sharp, designed specifically to pierce the prey's flesh. The teeth at the back were short, blunt, and rounded, like a row of stone hammers, designed specifically to crush bone. What does that mean? Modern crocodiles tear off flesh and spit out the bones. But Deinosuchus was different. When it ate, it chewed up flesh and bone together and swallowed everything. That explains why scientists cannot find complete bones inside Deinosuchus coprolites, because everything had been ground into powder. So how strong was its bite force exactly? Research in 2002 showed that Deinosuchus had a bite force of up to 18,000 pounds, equivalent to 80,000 newtons. What kind of concept is that? The bite force of a modern saltwater crocodile is only about 16,500 newtons. Deinosuchus was nearly 5 times stronger. With one bite, it could even bend a steel pipe. But having weapons alone is not enough. You still need a chance to get close to the prey. Deinosuchus's tactics were exactly the same as those of modern crocodiles: ambush. It would lie hidden at the riverbank or in the swamp, with only its eyes and nostrils exposed, completely motionless, waiting for dinosaurs to come drink. North America 82 million years ago was completely different from today. The entire continent was split into 2 halves by a shallow inland sea. Scientists call it the Western Interior Seaway. On both sides of that seaway were dense swamps, vast wetlands, and abundant food. This environment was practically a paradise tailor-made for Deinosuchus. Plenty of food, enough water, hot climate, Deinosuchus evolved wildly in this land, growing bigger and bigger, more and more ferocious. When a hadrosaur cautiously walked to the water's edge and lowered its head to drink, it would never notice that beneath the water, an 8-meter-long monster was hiding. The moment it stepped into attack range, Deinosuchus would launch upward like a spring, biting the prey's leg or neck in a single snap. And what came next was the cruelest part of all, the death roll. Using the power of its whole body, Deinosuchus would spin at high speed, violently twisting off and tearing apart the prey's limbs. In Texas, scientists discovered several hadrosaur tail vertebrae fossils with clear Deinosuchus tooth marks on the bones. These hadrosaurs, before they died, had been savagely bitten by Deinosuchus, then dragged into the water and never came back up. You may ask, Deinosuchus was so huge, wasn't it attacked itself? The answer is almost impossible, because its whole body was covered in a layer of armor, scientifically known as osteoderms. These bony plates ran from head to tail, densely arranged across its back. They were thick and hard, like a natural bulletproof vest. The teeth of ordinary dinosaurs simply could not bite through them. Even more impressive, these bones did not only serve for defense, they also helped Deinosuchus support its body more effectively. With this skeletal armor system, although it was astonishingly heavy, Deinosuchus could still move flexibly on land. It was not just some fat brute squatting in the water. But Deinosuchus also had one fatal weakness. It grew too slowly. Scientists studied the growth rings in its bones and found that this animal needed a full 35 years to reach adult size. Modern crocodiles usually reach sexual maturity in about 10 to 15 years. Deinosuchus's growth rate was 2 to 3 times slower. What does that mean? From birth to becoming a top predator, a Deinosuchus had to pass through a very long 35-year window. During that time, it was dangerous, yes, but it still did not have the strength to crush everything. And the oldest Deinosuchus fossils show that they may have lived for more than 50 years. In the age of dinosaurs, what did 50 years mean? Any random natural disaster, any food shortage, and these giant crocodilians could no longer survive. How wide was Deinosuchus's range? The answer is half of North America. Scientists have found Deinosuchus fossils in 12 US states, from New Jersey on the east coast to Montana in the west to Texas in the south. Its traces were everywhere. Even in northern Mexico, Deinosuchus skeletons have been found. Even more amazingly, the western Deinosuchus and the eastern Deinosuchus differed enormously in size. Eastern Deinosuchus averaged 7 to 8 meters in length, weighing 2 to 3 tons, and mainly fed on sea turtles, large fish, and small dinosaurs. But western Deinosuchus averaged over 10 meters in length and could weigh up to 8 tons, specializing in hunting large dinosaurs. Why was there such a difference? The answer is simple. The western region had richer food sources. Across the landmass of Laramedia, large dinosaurs were everywhere. Hadrosaurs, ceratopsians, and chylosaurs. With better food, Deinosuchus naturally grew larger, but on the eastern landmass of Appalachia, large dinosaurs were relatively scarce. So Deinosuchus had to make do, and its body size stayed smaller. But whether in the east or the west, one thing was the same. In territories ruled by Deinosuchus, all carnivorous dinosaurs did not dare grow too large. Why? Because if they grew too large, they would become Deinosuchus's targets. By its very existence, Deinosuchus directly suppressed the upper size limit of carnivorous dinosaurs across an entire region. That was the true apex ruler at the very top of the food chain. Deinosuchus ruled North America for nearly 10 million years. From 82 million years ago to 73 million years ago. Throughout that long span of time, countless dinosaurs trembled under its shadow. But around 73 million years ago, Deinosuchus suddenly disappeared from the fossil record. There was no warning at all. It was as if it had evaporated from the world. To this day, scientists still do not know exactly why it went extinct. Some guess it was climate change. The western interior seaway began to retreat, and swamps and wetlands dried up on a massive scale. Deinosuchus lost its habitat. Some guess it was the collapse of the food chain. The number of dinosaurs decreased, and Deinosuchus could no longer find enough food. But there is still no definitive evidence. The only thing we can say for sure is this. The disappearance of Deinosuchus was absolutely good news for the dinosaur world. But that good news didn't last long for the dinosaurs, because 6 million years later, the asteroid that changed everything was coming. And Deinosuchus, the once terrifying killer that made dinosaurs shake with fear, had already turned into a pile of silent fossils in the long river of history, waiting for humans to discover the glory of its past. The latest 2025 research also tells us that Deinosuchus may not have been a relative of alligators at all. It was a stem group member outside the crown group of Crocodilia, an independent evolutionary branch. What does that mean? It means Deinosuchus' evolutionary path may have been far more unique, far more mysterious than we ever imagined. Just imagine this. If Deinosuchus had not gone extinct, if it had survived that asteroid impact, what would Earth be like today? We might never have had the chance to stand at the top of the food chain, because that position would already have belonged to Deinosuchus. That is the story of Deinosuchus, a super predator that once ruled North America for 10 million years, fed on dinosaurs, and yet ultimately vanished into history. It tells us one cruel truth. On this planet, being stronger is not what matters most. What matters most is being better able to adapt to the environment